Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to your weekly forecast for February 3rd through 9th, 2025. I caught myself there because I'm like, what? It's February? Yeah, February. Here we are. I guess we just celebrated Groundhog's Day, and I don't know what the result was. Do we have more winter or spring here? I'm not sure. I should check on that. But anyway, the moon is now waxing after last week's Aquarius new moon that rung in the Lunar New Year of the Snake. And I hope you had a beautiful week of new beginnings, inklings of new beginnings last week, whether you celebrate the Chinese New Year or the Celtic festival of Imbolc or both. I, for one, was ready for another chance at a new beginning. I always am, but especially last week. There's been a lot going on, in case you haven't noticed, a lot of stuff to pay attention to and a lot of chaos. And so I was definitely ready for these New Year's. I'm never ready on January 1st. I don't think many of us are right after the holidays and in the dark, deep dark of winter. But this last week, I was definitely feeling a little bit of more like energy in my body, a little bit more energy outside, like seeing birds flying around and a couple of little bulbs poking their little green sprouts up into my garden beds, which I was really surprised about because it was flurrying snowflakes around as well. But definitely felt like paying attention to what was going on outside in the natural world really was aligning with these early onsets of spring, these first hints of spring that are celebrated at this equidistant point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox for this cross-quarter day of Imbolc. And Chinese New Year this year fell right alongside that. And so, and it usually is right in that ballpark, that wheelhouse as well. So really exciting to start to notice. This is my first year doing this podcast and paying attention. And when things line up in my natural environment and on the earth with the mythologies that I'm reading from cultures across the globe, it really adds a little extra something of okay, yes, there's something larger than me. There's something larger than us that's operating. And that's why I do this work. So yeah, I definitely took the symbols and meanings of these first hints of spring quite to heart, and I spent some good time doing some spring cleaning, like a ritualistic sweeping off of my stoop, which is common in both Imbolc and the Lunar New Year to do a good spring cleaning, cooking some nourishing meals. I tried a couple of new Chinese dishes that I hadn't tried before. Nothing super authentic. Orange chicken was one request from my daughter, but it was really good. And I gathered in an Imbolc song circle and sung some songs to Brigid, the goddess of Imbolc, and I attended a lion's dance, another one, this last weekend for bringing in the new year with prosperity, with a good friend of mine who is connected to that culture. And so this week, we are starting the Lunar New Year and this halfway mark between the solstice and the equinox with the sun traveling through the human design gates and I Ching hexagrams of the Listener, which is gate 13, and Revolution, which is gate 49. And in my mind, just seeing these two words, the listener and then revolution, seems like really good timing, kind of perfect timing for both of these. We also have a couple of big astrology transits happening this week that I'll mention, which include Jupiter stationing direct in Gemini after a retrograde period. And that's going to give us back some of the expansive energy that we've been lacking when it comes to Gemini-related things like communication and our local relationships with siblings and close friends and our close community and social networking. And also this week, Neptune is conjoining the North Node in Pisces. The North Node just entered Pisces, where it will stay for the remainder of the year, this next 18-month period. Neptune has been there for a while, but they're both meeting in Pisces, which is bringing our potentially delulu fantasies and dreams right in line with our worldly goals and ambitions. So it's a pretty interesting transit to have this week as well. Before we jump deeper into the forecast this week, I will have a couple of quick announcements that I wanted to mention and just some little seeds to plant for where this project is going. First, I wanted to say thank you so much and hello to all of my new subscribers and followers and people out there in the world who have connected with this project in some way. There's a lot of new faces and names here, and so I wanted to extend a warm welcome to you all and say thanks for joining us here for these forecasts. Super stoked to have you here and to grow the community. Secondly, I made a little thing that I mentioned I didn't even mention it last week. I just added it in the text, but I didn't mention it on audio. I spent some good amount of time putting together a Cycles of Time calendar, a Google Calendar, because I use Google Calendar extensively for my just keeping track of my life and sharing calendars with other people. I know there's other types of calendars that lots of people use, but I know Google is a pretty common and popular one, part of the G Suite with Gmail and everything. So I use it a lot, and I put together a Cycles of Time calendar that is really helpful for me to look at the transits, the human design sun transits and the major astrology transits, as well as like the times of year that the seasons are changing in these different wheels of the year, different pagan holy days across quarter days, solstices, equinoxes, all of the different elements that I include in Cycles of Time. I've put onto this calendar and not just put the title of the thing on the dates where they're happening, but also I wrote a pretty extensive description for each one of these transits and human design gates. Each one of the human design gate entries includes information about the related gene key, the I Ching hexagram, and the astrology transits. Just kind of talk quickly about like how that might show up in the world. And so it took a lot of time to put together, and it's really useful for me. So if anybody else could get use out of it, I really hope that you can download it as well. I have it available for $25 on my Etsy store that I just launched. It's called Cosmic Odyssey Arts Etsy store. I have a few other art clothing projects that I've built out there as well. But this calendar is especially relevant for you Cycles of Time listeners and readers because it allows you to kind of download a file and then import it into your Google Calendar so that this calendar can be toggled on and off so it won't get overwhelming. But you could toggle it on to kind of see how these different energies of the wheel of the year, through the gates, through the astrology seasons and transits are showing up with your schedules. You know, I just can overlay my upcoming trips and appointments and say, oh, is that a good thing to be going to a dental surgery on like a Mars transit? Maybe not. Might make some changes. Who knows? Ultimately, it's just a really easy way to keep track of when these transits are happening. So if you've liked the podcast, highly recommend listening to it. And it, again, is on Etsy. I'll link it in the show notes. And it's also on astrosomatics.substack.com, where this is written out every week. So I hope you find this useful. I really think that it was a cool thing to put together. And if $25 is too steep for you, shoot me an email at allison@astrosomatics.com and just ask for a discount code. I might put one out sooner, but I figured, it's a full year. It's from January 2025 to March 2026, spring equinox of 2026. And it's just a lot of writing and a lot of information, kind of like an astrologer in your pocket, to learn a little bit about each transit and each human design gate. So I feel like it's worth it, but I'm happy to help you out if it feels like that's something that you would like, but you don't want to pay for it. But yeah, and for all you new listeners out there, I really personally hate it when I come on a new podcast and they're just talking about their promos for their stuff for like the first forever, and I try to skip ahead and then they're like still talking about it, and I'm like, I'm not here for this stop. That happens sometimes, and I just want to let you know, I very rarely talk about anything that I'm selling. This has all been a free a free offering on Substack in this podcast for a very long time, and I'm really here to learn alongside people, and it's a labor of love and a passion project. But I have started to put out a few offerings, and this is my first time announcing them, and I'm excited about them. Excited about putting some offerings out. That is the first one. It's available now. It's ready for your use, and yeah, it's on cosmicodysseyarts.etsy.com. But find the link as well. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about was just a little preview of what is to come with this project, Cycles of Time, Astrosomatics. Basically, I'm kind of in this process of reflecting right now because I'm entering the final month of year 1 of doing this podcast and year 2 of doing a blog where I'm really tracking and attuning and embodying the seasons. So I just wanted to take a moment here as I wrap up, as we edge towards Pisces season, which will be the final month of this first year, because I've always started on the spring equinoxes. Just wanted to say thank you, again, not just to the new people, but to everyone who's been consistently showing up here. I see you and I feel you, and I'm really grateful for your presence, to just being here and reading and listening and reaching out and talking to me about how this project has affected you. It's really fun to make those connections, and it's, again, just been a passion project and a labor of love and a deep experiment in attuning with the cycles of the year, both in my body and my mind and my heart, and then kind of reporting on my findings as I go. I mentioned to a couple people that I started out doing this because I was about to join a course where I would learn about the human design, all the 64 human design gates, that it was going to be a year-long course of going through each one every week. And I was like, I can't really jump onto somebody else's offering at this point because I had too much going on and I was starting to homeschool my daughter. And so I was like, I think that I can learn it through talking about it. And so I have learned so much over the course of this year, and it's just been so fun to share it with everyone, and find people that are also equally as nerdy and curious about these ancient stories and wisdoms that are really coming through and are really important at this point in our society. So I'm really just amazed how much this this practice of attuning to the wheel of the year from these different perspectives has really supported me and grounded me and connected me with the earth itself, the seasons on earth, and these kind of universal stories of how all of our ancestors across the globe have related to the changing seasons and helped created stories and attuned to stories that help us thrive as seasons change. So I hope you've found some value in it too, and I really appreciate you being here. Like I said, I started tracking and writing about the full and new moons with the Astrosomatic Substack on the astrological new year in 2023. And that's spring equinox is the astrological new year, the beginning of Aries season. So then a year later in 2024, I expanded into a podcast and expanded into including human design and the I Ching, the medicine wheel, the Taoist 5-element cycle, and the pagan wheel of the year last year, because everything was just converging and there were so many parallels. So I brought that into cycles of time. And as this new year, astrological new year, Aries season approaches with the spring equinox 2025, I am excited to start moving beyond writing and recording and continue to do so. I love writing. I've loved recording. I think I might start doing video, actually, because why not? I have the setup. I think I'm ready to go with that. But putting it into a YouTube channel, perhaps, or definitely video on Substack, video on Spotify they have as well now. So all across these platforms, I'm going to start in Aries season, putting out some video, no promises, but pretty sure. And I'm going to start segmenting out the different areas, the different energies of the wheel. So right now, each week, I kind of read and learn and study and tune into what's going on in the zodiac and in the human design wheel of the year and in the pagan wheel of the year. And I kind of section it out a bit, but I usually just kind of fuse things together and intuitively see how everything's melding together. And that's been super great. But for ease of access and ease of use, and just kind of shorter, more bite-sized tidbits, and just easier searchability and all kinds of things, I'm going to start doing these video segments with, an isolated part. So Aquarius season or the gate of the listener. And that I'll put together a digest every week like I've been doing, but it'll just be kind of give you the ability to tune into the separate videos and separate content about these different energies and make your own conclusions about how they interrelate. I'll probably put together a little bit of a digest, synthesis, because I love to synthesize about how I see all of these energies coming together, but it'll be more of like a hot take, and then you can dive into each of the different wheels, kind of in a different isolated way. So curious to hear what you think about that change. It's again an experiment, but I'm looking forward to just tweaking and adjusting based on what's been working and what hasn't. Next year, or this upcoming March, I'm also looking to offer more opportunities for community engagement and personalized reflection with this project. And I'll be, number one, launching a new website probably when I get back from a trip. I'm headed to Costa Rica to meet up with some childhood friends and some people who live down there and have a little bit of a beach time away from the hyper cold New Mexico winter. And so I'll be there upcoming, but when I get back, maybe before I'll launch it, maybe right when I get back, but definitely won't start doing any of the offerings until I return in late February. But basically, I'm going to start offering some readings, human design readings, astrology readings, and also kind of custom cycles of time readings where I look at your your chart of the kind of multidimensional wheel of the year and see kind of the energies of your sun, moon, and rising signs, for example, and what gates they're in, what Taoist what element that they're in, and put together a story and a picture about how certain elements of your life are shaped by these different energies from cycles of time. So I'm excited to start working one-on-one with people in a little bit more of an intensive way. I've been doing a lot of friends and family readings and kind of behind the scenes readings, but I'm ready to launch some offerings in earnest. And then another thing I'm really excited about in this upcoming year with cycles of time specifically is a membership that I'm calling Embody the Revolution. And it is going to include several things. It's going to include, if you join the monthly, you can join for 1 month or 2 months or the whole year. And basically, it's going to start with the beginning of Aries season on the spring equinox. And I'm going to send out a monthly PDF workbook to your inbox for each zodiac season, where there'll be journaling questions and prompts and a lot of information about, the human design gates of each zodiac season and the different key transits and astrology and in the other wheels of the year that are happening during that time. So yeah, just a visual accompaniment, visual and written accompaniment to the podcast. Really getting into, I love making visual stuff, and I've been doing a lot of it on Instagram, and kind of want to shift gears away from a bunch of Instagram posts and put it towards kind of more of a nice little zine that you can get about the astrology season and its related energies and within the other wheels of the year. I'm also going to include in that membership the cycles of time calendar that I just mentioned above, so that'll come with the membership to be able to plug it into your calendar system. And then there's going to be a couple of live sessions every month that are part of this paid membership, which is first a monthly guided breathwork session, which is going to be hosted by me on Zoom each new moon of the year. And the goal of that is to help us tune into our bodies and relate to the archetypes of the season through a more somatic space and not as much cerebral mental kind of space. And I'm a certified trauma-informed, conscious connected breathwork guide and facilitator, and I've done a lot of work in that realm, but I'm excited to kind of bring it in and do an astro breathwork session where we're guided to just get in tune with our breath and our bodies with a little bit of reflection about the season, about the kind of major energies that are showing up in this season as well. So it'd be a Zoom monthly breathwork session on the new moons. And then at the end of each season, each zodiac season, I'll be hosting a monthly guided reflection session where we'll be able to gather in community at the end of each season and talk about how the archetypical energies, including the human design gates, including the I Ching frequencies, including the elemental realms of the season, and kind of talking about how those show up for us. And I'll be facilitating it and guiding it. And I'm also looking to put together a community network, either on Discord or on Substack, where it'll be kind of just an ongoing conversation with different channels to be able to talk about these different energies as they're showing up and really just bring it home that way. So that is my coming out party into the world. I'm gonna do it I'm just ready to do it. I'm ready to host this stuff, and I haven't really put together too many offerings, especially a year-long membership, so it feels a little bit it feels new to me, and it's a new year. It feels like this is coming through as a transmission with the new season, and I'm just really excited to hold some space to let some of this information just like settle into our bodies, be able to gather in community at a time when community is truly needed, and just talk about some important stuff in the cycles of time. So you can join now already. It's live through Substack by becoming a paid subscriber. The monthly sessions are going to begin in March. So if you join now, it will just be like a tip for me because you're not going to get too much additional content for it until March. But if it's on your mind and that sounds great to you and you'd like to sign up and show some monetary exchange appreciation for any value you've picked up here, totally don't hesitate to do so. Otherwise, I will be sending out reminders and updating a new website to give more information about all of this. So there's also a founding membership option on Substack. So it's astrosomatics.substack.com if you're listening on another platform. And if you join as a founding member, you'll also receive an astrology, human design, or custom cycles of time personalized reading of your choice. So it's a good way to get a discount on a reading in addition to partaking in the Embody the Revolution membership. So again, you'll be able to join as a monthly subscriber and cancel that any time and still keep getting the free transmissions every week about what's going on in the wheel of the year. Those will stay free throughout the year. But you can also join as an annual or founding member for year-long access and get that bonus reading. So I truly hope that if you're listening to this, you'll consider joining me in this journey. I've been thinking a lot about the price point, and I'm making it really accessible. It's more than a normal, I pay for a lot of Substacks, and they're like $8 a month or so for access to the writings. And I've never paywalled writings because I've just wanted to share it with as many people as possible. Same with the audio and video transmissions. But when it comes to these live hosted and facilitated gatherings, as well as like this zine PDF, it's a good amount of content, and it's a really good price. So I just am excited to have more people there to gather in this really critical year of evolution. So again, I know I keep saying this, but I will be launching a website with more information. It's just been sitting there waiting for the right time. And I think the new year, the lunar new year in bulk is a really good time. So I'll be launching that very shortly. And if you have any questions about this offering, you can just shoot me an email at Allison@astrosomatics or find me at astro.somatics on Instagram or Blue Sky now. And or on Substack. I'm on all these channels. So please reach out if you have any questions about what this might be. And again, just thank you so much for being here and hearing what's next with Cycles of Time. Now on to the week ahead. This week's highlights, we have Jupiter stationing direct in Gemini, like I mentioned, on Tuesday, February 4th. On Friday, February 7th, Neptune is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. And then in the Human Design and I Ching Wheel of the Year, from last Sunday through this Friday, the Sun is transiting through Gate 13, which is known as the Gate of the Listener. And on Saturday through next Wednesday, so over the weekend, we're going to be in Gate 49, which is the Gate of Revolution. Right on time. This week's themes are listening and revolution. We'll get into that a little bit more, but it's pretty much just like, knowing when to speak, when to listen. It's kind of aligning your fantasies and dreams with tangible, realistic goals. And it's feeling that revolutionary urge. The Earth just made a revolution around the sun. And we are always on this revolutionary journey of the earth around the sun, but revolution in our bodies is, that feeling of reaching a place where you have learned something. You're reaching the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. And with that ending and new beginning, you're recognizing what you learned and what you know that you didn't know before. So the themes are listening deeply, attuning to fellowship with other people, and thinking about what revolution means for you. And it could be as simple as the revolution of the Earth around the sun, the revolution of the sun around the galactic center, the just knowing that we're in cycles. That's a big piece of this for me, obviously. But revolution doesn't have to be fists in the air. It's really more about attuning to these cycles of things in my mind. So our place in the wheel of the year, this particular week in time, is where you have moved from the medicine wheel direction north, which represents spirituality, elderhood, winter, and wind. And we've moved into the very beginning of the element, or the direction east, which is symbolized by earth, spring, birth and childhood, and physicality. And the center point of east, the eastern direction, is the spring equinox. But in the medicine wheels that I see, there is, the kind of beginning and end are more on the cross-quarter days than on the equinoxes and solstices. And the equinoxes and solstices represent the midway point between these directional seasons. And of course, there's lots of different medicine wheels and different ways that this is interpreted. So it's not necessarily set in stone, and it's different from culture to culture and from tribe to tribe and from group of people to group of people. But as far as how I've generally seen the medicine wheel represented, it is with east and the very beginning of spring happening now and kind of aligning with that pagan cross-quarter day of Imbolc and with the season of wood in the Wuxing cycle. It's the very, very beginning of upward growth. And seeing those little sprouts in my garden of the bulbs that are planted really reaffirmed that. Like it's just poking out into wood. And in that Wuxing 5-element Taoist cycle, we have been in the season of water, the season of yin, the season of receptivity over the course of winter. And we're moving into wood. And there's not a definite day or a definite week even. It's a slow transition. And earth actually is a transitional element that grounds us in between each distinct season in this Chinese Wuxing cycle. So you don't just jump from water to wood. You always have an earth in between each seasonal transition. So we're kind of in this water to earth to wood zone right now, thinking about all three of these elements and how they ground and nurture us. But we're moving toward wood. And if you listened last week to the episode about the Lunar New Year, we are moving from a wood dragon to a wood snake year. And so the overall energetics of the element are seen in the whole year. And again, wood is about upward growth, whereas water is about underground kind of yin qualities. And so that is where we're at on that wheel. The pagan season is Imbolc, which we celebrated last weekend. The zodiac season is Aquarius, which lasts until February 18th. The moon phase is waxing. And the I Ching hexagram in human design gate is 13 from Monday through Friday. That is known as heaven over fire or fellowship with others, also known as the gate of the listener. And then Saturday and Sunday of this week, we're in the gate of revolution, which is known in the I Ching as lake over fire or radical change or revolution. And so it carries through from the I Ching to human design there. So we'll get started with the gate of the listener. It started on Sunday, Sunday the 2nd, and goes through Friday. And the gate of the listener is located in the human design body graph in the G center, which is the identity center or the heart center. And it is a kind of an identity gate. And it carries the energy of secrecy, trust, and deep listening. People with this gate defined are oftentimes natural confidants, and others are often drawn to share their personal experiences and secrets with people with the gate of the listener. Gate 13 has a strong connection to the collective consciousness, the collective memory, and people with this gate tend to absorb and transmit stories that shape the shared human experience. It's a very storytelling gate. It represents the energy of hearing, witnessing, and holding the collective stories of humanity. I am close to this gate. I was in a relationship with someone, my dad of my daughter. My ex-husband has gate 13, his son in gate 13. And I always thought of him as like a quintessential Aquarius, and not necessarily as like the best listener. It wasn't like, oh, wow, you're an incredible listener. But when I've learned more about the gate of the listener, things about him come like strike me as very true about this ability to really see what's going on collectively in this very Aquarian way, this very like looking at the network and the nodes of all of the people that are out there rather than just like a personalized experience. And I'm pretty Leo heavy in my chart. Leo is the opposite sign from Aquarius on the wheel. And Leo is the heart, and Aquarius is the circulatory system, right? Leo represents kind of like the I, the self-expression, the passion that comes from our hearts. And Aquarius represents more of like a networked version of humanity. It's like I am one of many. There is an I here, but I am only me because I'm a collective of lots of others as well. And so when I look at gate 13 as the listener, what I'm seeing is even if it's not active listening per se, there's a certain amount of like hearing and just always having your ear to the ground to pay attention to what is happening in the collective conscious. And this feels very accurate for him, for someone who I know very deeply and closely. So it's been curious for me to look at our relationship through that lens as well, having that Aquarius Leo polarity. Gate 13 operates within the channel of the prodigal, which is the 1333, and it's paired, so it reaches from the 13 in the G center, the heart, to the 33 in the throat center. And this full channel represents the cyclical nature of storytelling, wherein you experience something, then you retreat, and then you share wisdom that you gained from those experiences. So those with gate 13 alone, a hanging gate that don't have 33, could feel a deep responsibility to hold space for others and the narratives of others. But they have to be kind of cautious of what to share and when, because they are listening and receiving a lot of information from the collective. And so if they don't have that channel connected to the throat, it's not always clear when to share what and how to share the things that you've received in that storytelling cycle. The gate 13 also has a pretty karmic energy where it draws in people who need to unburden themselves. And that's why it's essential for people who have gate 13 active to establish boundaries, because absorbing too many interpersonal secrets and burdens, perhaps, without an outlet can become really overwhelming. So when operating in alignment and being in attunement to this energy, this gate can bring clarity and wisdom to collective experiences, really finding and forging bonds about shared experiences in life. The shadow of this gate really manifests when people become burdened by the secrets that they hold, or they're listening too much and don't know when to assimilate and to speak that into their own experience. And they don't often, or if they don't know when or how to share what they've learned through this ear to the ground type of vibe, listening to the collective. The wisdom of this gate is learning to discern which stories need to be spoken and which are best kept in trust. In the gene keys, gene key 13 is an evolutionary spectrum between the shadow of discord to the city of revelation through the gift of discernment and empathy. So in the shadow frequency, this gate of the listener is kind of easily able to become trapped in gossip and in mistrust, and has kind of an inability to discern truth. It's discordant. The shadow of discord shows up when secrets are held with ill intentions or when one gets entangled in other people's dramas. When we're disconnected from ourselves and our true essence, we can't truly listen to others, and that leads to misunderstandings and gossip and ultimately isolation. So, if you're supposed to be a good listener, you have this energy in your chart, or we're living through the week, this week of the listener, it can feel, if we're able to actually tap into a connection with ourselves and know that we are one of the many eyes that make up the collective, then there's no problem in really listening to others and having empathy for others. It's really, the shadow level shows up when we have a certain disconnection from seeing ourselves as a part of the whole. And it can be this kind of ping pong match between is it selfishness or selflessness? Is it me or is it we? Which one is the truth? And for me, it's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation where it's neither, it's not one or the other. It's, it's by recognizing your own sovereignty within the collective, you're able to not be selfish or selfless, but understand that you are a part of the larger whole, and so therefore able to empathize with others, which is the gift level of this gene key. And just as an aside for anyone that's new here, anyone that's new to human design or the gene keys or the I Ching, basically the I Ching is the ancient Chinese book of changes that has 64 hexagrams, and their correspondence with different parts of the year, of the wheel of the year. And the human design is a system that integrates various ancient components, including the I Ching, and they call the hexagrams of the I Ching, the 64 different hexagrams, gates. So within human design, the language is gates. And then so human design was founded by a man named Ra-Uruhu. And then the gene keys, a student of Ra was Richard Rudd, who is a gentleman who kind of came up with a system of looking at these 64 gates or 64 hexagrams through the context of genetics, because there are 64 codons in genetics. And he put together a system called the gene keys, which looks at these energies through an evolutionary spectrum of shadow, gift, and siddhi. And so I like to pull the languaging from all of these different systems because while they all trace back to the I Ching, and I could just focus on the I Ching, if I were to choose one, I would, because I think it's got very beautiful language, but obviously it's very caught up in a certain culture, a certain time period. I really like looking at all three. I like looking at seeing how listening aligns with discord, aligns with empathy, aligns with, in the I Ching, it's the fellowship with men or the fellowship with others. And so that's just, you probably know this if you've been listening for a while, but just wanted to clear out kind of why I look at all of these different interpretations of this energy, because there's always something to be gleaned from the synthesis of how they all fit together. So yeah, gene keys, we've got discord and that disconnection from ourself at the shadow level, so that we can't truly listen, although we would benefit so much from listening. At the gift level, discernment and empathy And there's this ability to listen deeply and hold space for others with compassionate neutrality. True discernment allows us to recognize the lessons within stories without becoming emotionally burdened by them and without taking anything too personally. It's just like, again, data collection. I feel like data is a big piece of Aquarius, actually looking at all of the different nodes of a system. Engineering is another, Aquarii were the engineers of the aquifers in ancient Rome. And so it is deeply kind of data-driven engineering type of dispassionateness, but it's compassionate neutrality. I prefer that when I think about Aquarius to dispassionate, right? It's just really not becoming emotionally burdened by your own particular response to something. And discernment is the ability to listen beyond words and to hear the truth beneath the surface and recognize when to speak and when to remain silent. So that is the gift level. And then the siddhi, the transcendent, connected to spirit level, is revelation. And so at its highest frequency, gate 13 embodies this pure channeling of divine remembrance, where we have revealed profound truths to us, and it's a process of kind of guiding collective healing and collective harmony through understanding and storytelling about the greater whole. So those who master this energy can serve as wisdom keepers to help humanity evolve by integrating past experiences into greater awareness. And by listening, but just really by listening and then transmitting that information. So it embodies the wisdom that all stories are part of the great human experience. Moving on to the I Ching, hexagram 13 is known as Tongren, which is fellowship with men or fellowship with other people. And this hexagram speaks to the power of unity and shared experiences and honest communication and listening. And it represents the potential for trust and cooperation when individuals come together in authenticity with true fellowship. The wisdom of hexagram 13 is really reminding us that true connection is built on honest and ethical relationships, and that listening with an open heart strengthens communities. It also warns of the dangers of dishonest alliances, manipulation, or misusing the trust that others place in us. The key lesson of this hexagram is that true fellowship arises from sincerity and openness. It's not about superficial networking, but rather about finding those with whom we share a deep and authentic resonance and building alliances with them. The more we listen without attachment and that kind of neutral, compassionate neutrality, the more that we are able to foster real unity. And that, I think that the best listeners that I know, I'm not one of them. I'll just say that. And I'm trying so hard to get better. But I really, really, really am. Like, listening is such a beautiful skill. And sometimes I think I'm a good listener and sometimes I am. But I truly know that the best listeners do have a compassionate neutrality. They can suspend their own personal reference to the situation and not bring it back to them about like, oh yeah, this is how I'm personally interjecting into this situation. And so a true listener is such an amazing being to me, someone who has that mastered. And it does really foster unity so much quicker, because it's like they're comfortable enough in their own skin to not have to be like, oh yeah, well, that's how this reminds me of this thing that happened to me. It's very much like seeing the larger collective patterning without having to make it personal. And that is a sign of a true listener, I think. And that's an energy that, as the sun is transiting through this gate of the listener, we can all tap into a little bit. Think about what it means to listen with compassionate neutrality and with empathy. And I'm certainly going to be thinking about that as far as how it leads us to being able to foster the unity that's needed for a revolution, which is the gate that's coming up next. There's a quote by the Wilhelm translation of the I Ching from 1950 that says, basically talks about the upper and lower trigram of the hexagram. So each hexagram in the I Ching, each of the 64, is made up of 2 different trigrams, which are 8 different elements. And in this 13, the upper trigram is heaven and the lower is fire. So it says, it is the nature of fire to flame up to the heaven. This hexagram forms a complement to hexagram 7, the army. In the army, danger is within and obedience without, the character of a warlike army, which, in order to hold together, needs one strong man among the many who are weak. This gives the idea of fellowship. Here, clarity is within and strength without, the character of a peaceful union of men, which, in order to hold together, needs one yielding nature among many firm persons. So that really speaks to the Aquarian nature of this gate of the listener. It's this idea of the nodes of the network, of the unity between people based on listening and not based on having an outward dominance or strength. So again, this feels very perfect for right now because there are so many strong men. When you look at the news, you look at the headlines, it's like, who is dominating? The strong men, the people who are thinking they need to seize control and make everything their way rather than listening to what people want. And that feels like that's not the way. That's not the Aquarian way. That's not the Age of Aquarius way by any means. And so it's the last hurrah. It's the final lashing out of maybe the way things used to be in the Age of Leo, for example. And nothing against Leos. Love me some Leos. But there's a certain Aquarian calling that's happening right now about this node-based networks and fellowship with others that is so important. It says, this translation continues to say, the image of fellowship with men, thus the superior man, organizes the clans and makes distinctions between things. It says, heaven has the same direction of movement as fire, yet it is different from fire. Just as the luminaries in the sky serve for the systematic division and arrangement of time, so human society and all things that really belong together must be organically arranged. Fellowship should not be a mere mingling of individuals or of things. That would be chaos, not fellowship. If fellowship is to lead to order, there must be organization within diversity. So again, it's a different type of, it's democracy. Maybe it's real democracy. It's real, which is real listening, right? And I think we've gone away from that a long time ago. But this gate is asking us to bring it back. So for this week, some insights and some things to think about are, especially if you have Gate 13 defined, know that you're a natural listener, but be mindful of what it is that you're absorbing. And know that some stories are meant to be held in silence, while others must be shared for the collective good. And it's all about timing, like when to bring those stories and what you've heard from the collective to the greater picture. This week, it's important to cultivate discernment and know when to listen, when to speak, and when to let go. Not all secrets need to be carried indefinitely. It's times, there's certain moments that call for sharing. It's almost like you've gotten enough data. And data seems so dry, but it's not. It's just like stories are data, right? And it's about kind of knowing when it's not just an anecdote anymore, when it's not something that's just like one personal experience, but keeping your ear to the ground and listening until you're aware that that you're doing some pattern recognition. And I hear a lot about pattern recognition lately. That term has come up a lot, kind of as more people who consider themselves neurodivergent start to talk about their experiences. And I would say I would consider myself neurodivergent. I definitely have never liked to label something like black or white binary kind of situation. Like, what is neurotypical? What does that mean? But definitely there's been a big emphasis lately of people allying themselves with the term neurodivergent, and whatever that means for them, and talking about being really good at pattern recognition as one of the things that shows up with neurodivergency. And if that's the case, then I would certainly label myself as such. But what that really is like learning how to listen to all the small things and pay attention to more than just your personal impact on the world, but what else is going on in the room, what else is happening around in your environment, so that you can see what is really happening and know when to speak on that, know when to universalize, and not necessarily speak too soon when something might just be a single person's opinion, for example, or a single person's secret or burden. So another thing to do this week with all that in mind is to reflect on what stories you're telling yourself, and notice if they're rooted in discord and a disconnection from yourself, or that wisdom that you are interconnected with the rest of everyone. I think of I really like eyes, like EYES. I wear a jacket that has an eye on it sometimes, and kind of a protective eye. And so I just like thinking of a bunch of eyes together, and like angels of old. If you look at old medieval representations of angels, they're these beings that have a lot of eyes all over them. And I just really when I think about the collective, sometimes I'm just it is this being with a lot of eyes. And that's this collective consciousness, is knowing that without all the singular eyes coming together, you cannot have a collective. It includes you, but it includes everybody else. So that's my little image there of the angels. And that, I feel like angels are empathetic creatures, right? And empathy and listening are so important this week, and always, but especially this week. And that's empathy not just with others, but with yourself, recognizing that you are a part of it. You need to give yourself as much love as you're giving others, and create space for yourself as much as you're creating space to listen to others. Deep listening, of course, begins with an inner awareness. So, Gate 13 overall is just a profound gate of wisdom, and it's deeply tied to the pulse, the heart of humanity at large. So when it's lived at its highest potential, the gate of the listener can connect us all through this power of shared experience and authentic connection, fellowship with others. It's beautiful. It is just what we need right now. And it's given me whole new insights into my previous relationship, my longest relationship. And it's really, really nice. I see so much of the goodness there. And sometimes that's so helpful within these systems of archetypes, is to kind of just be able to see something for what it is, see someone for what they are, and have qualities that you might have pigeonholed in one way or another described in a way that can see it from another perspective, and also kind of see where you have that energy and where you don't, and where you can learn. So grateful for learning about Gate 13 and listening and sharing with you. I will jump in here now to Saturday through next Wednesday, the weekend's energy this week. We are going to be transiting through Human Design Gate 49, which is the gate of revolution. And it is a solar plexus, emotional solar plexus gate. So 13, listening, was a heart center gate, very much about identity, my identity, your identity, empathetic, shared identity of the collective consciousness. Then we're moving over to the solar plexus center. And so it's more emotional. This weekend brings more of an emotional energy and charge to it. And it is the energy of radical change, emotional clarity, and the restructuring of values and systems. People with Gate 49 are often deeply attuned to injustices and outdated structures, and they can sense when societal and relational and personal paradigms have to shift. So again, when the sun transits through a certain gate, if you have it activated or not, you're feeling that energy of this season, essentially. This is, another Aquarius gate, and Aquarians are associated with Uranus and with the planet of revolution and, upsetting, sensing that things are outdated and zapping them into a new paradigm. And so this feels very aligned with my stereotypical understanding of Aquarius. 49 is a part of the channel of sensitivity, which is the 4919. And we just went through gate 19 last week, which was the gate of wanting. And so with these two together in the body graph, 49 and 19, there's a certain dynamic of emotional needs and tribal agreements, and how this sensitivity to what needs to change and what we want within those changes for the evolutionary betterment of the world. Basically, when they come together, 49 establishes principles for emotional and material sustainability. And it's a very principled gate, the revolutionary gate. And then gate 19 is sensing kind of what is needed for survival and connection with the whole. Like, remember, 19 was the gate of kind of animal connection with the environment, and recognizing that we're very much a part of it, and having a very sensitive attunement to others within our environment. So it matches up with the revolutionary gate as well. And this energy is very sensitive to loyalty and agreements, and it often brings a revolutionary change when the agreements that create safety and connection between others are broken, or when they no longer align with core values. So that makes a lot of sense that revolution would be associated with the breaking of agreements and being sensitive to when underlying agreements that we thought were there are no longer in effect. That feels very, very relevant to the times. Obviously, I don't think I need to speak to that too redundantly, but we're in these times where there's been a general contract about what it means to be a citizen of the United States, if you are one, or what it means to be paying taxes to a government, what it means for all kinds of things. There's many, many agreements that we live under, and I think the first time that you start to sense that they're off, sometimes it's like, oh, well, maybe they'll come back. Maybe this is just a fluke. Maybe this agreement is not really under threat. But when you start to see that some basic agreements about how you've known to live your life, and who to rely on, and where to feel safe, and how to get your emotional needs met and not feel like you're in a chaos storm all the time. That's when revolution comes to the forefront, is survival and connection are being threatened, and your emotional and material sustainability are being threatened. That's when revolution naturally arises, when those agreements no longer are aligning. So in the gene keys, 49 is the gate of revolution, goes from the shadow of reaction to the gift of awareness to the city of rebirth. So at the shadow level, reaction arises from unprocessed emotions that lead to an impulsive rebellion or the rejection of necessary change. This energy can manifest as emotional volatility, destruction for the sake of destruction, or the inability to trust others due to past betrayals. Reaction at this level is often fueled by fear, causing one to push away others or act before clarity has emerged. And sometimes when, people speak about revolutions of the past, or just the social political revolutions that have happened, a lot of people are just like, well, that didn't work, right? Like, why didn't that work? And I do believe that that's true, that sometimes there's hindsight is 20/20, but there's a certain focusing of our energy in our historical context on the rebellion part of revolution. And I think that's one part of it, right? It's being reactive to when something's not working. You can rebel against it. But that is really a shadow level where if you're only focusing on that, you might say like, yeah, revolution doesn't work. And what I would say to that is that revolution is inevitable. Revolution is just the completion of a cycle, and it is a natural phenomenon that happens to help us grow out of outdated systems and structures. But there are definitely ways to engage with that energy. And if you get stuck in destruction for the sake of destruction or volatility, because that's the only place where you can be, and it oftentimes is very isolating, then nothing really, the next stage of the turning of the wheel can't really happen. So the gift level of revolution is awareness, and this reactionary impulse that we feel in response to something that needs to shift, a paradigm that needs to shift, that reaction refines into responsiveness. So it's like the difference between reactivity and responsiveness. Responsiveness is the ability responsibility is the ability to respond. And I've always loved that. It's so simple, but so true. It's like responding is not reacting. It's not pushing people away. It's not being fueled by fear. It is more of a truly revolutionary energy because it is purposeful and clear, and it allows us to create meaningful transformation in alignment with deep emotional wisdom and the pace of that. So revolution at the level of having awareness and responsive awareness is not a chaotic and discordant and rebellious type of energy, but it's definitely guided by that same discernment that we talked about in the Gate of the Listener, which is challenging oppressive systems while honoring human needs, including our own human needs for rest, for rejuvenation, for not just like causing chaos because you feel chaotic inside. And so it's often this tense place to be. It's like, I think about this time of year with this coming of spring, with the wood element coming in, with the direction east and childhood coming in. And I think about how uncomfortable it is to be in this like still very cold in the northern hemisphere, most places, time of year, this kind of like not very welcoming environmentally time of year where like things need to we know like the wheel needs to keep turning. We gotta get to spring. We gotta get to summer. We need to feel the feelings of life support, like sustainable life, but it's really hard. And so it can be easy to just fight against it. Like when the wind is blowing in your face and you're just like, I'm just going to keep walking against it. And you're getting like redder and colder and more blistered and just like pushing against that wind. And then you recognize that when you just turn your head or turn your body for a little while and like get out of that wind, how much you needed that rejuvenation in order to continue to come against the wind that it continues blowing in your face. And so having awareness and discernment about like what you're responding to and when the right time is to respond to that, rather than just plodding ahead because you're like, I have to plod ahead right now. This is about clarity. This is about, if we tap into the energy of this week, or if you have this gate active in your human design chart, you can become a powerful change maker. This is a weekend that begins this notion of like how change actually happens and how to transform outdated systems in ways that benefit the collective. So yeah, awareness and responsiveness versus reaction. And then at the city level of this gene key, 49, is rebirth. And this is a state of profound renewal where one could become an agent of spiritual transformation. And in this sense, within the gene keys, the city is always this level of like becoming one with the universal principles. And sometimes it like zooms out beyond the personal or like the societal transpersonal. And in this case, rebirth transcends personal or societal revolution. And it represents a complete shift in consciousness that reshapes reality from the inside out. And so at the level of rebirth, change is no longer about external struggle, but about the realization that true transformation begins within. In the I Ching, hexagram 49 is also known as revolution, but it's also known as molting. Yes, have you ever thought of revolution as molting? Just stop and picture that for a moment. Basically, in the I Ching, 49 is talking about fundamental change that arises when old structures no longer serve life. Just like a bird molts its feathers, or a snake sheds its skin. Hey, year of the snake, hello. That is a molting process that is natural and necessary, that happens all the time in order to maintain life, maintain livelihood by shedding things that are no longer serving, like physical structures of a body in this case. And so it's not like a metaphysical shedding of what's no longer serving, but molting is truly like letting a part of your body go, like a truly physical thing. And molting and revolution both require right timing and emotional clarity, like the wherewithal to go through a process that's like not comfortable in the moment, but going to create a much better growth-oriented structure. So true revolution is not about reckless upheaval and rebellion, but rather about understanding when and how to initiate transformation. And the hexagram 49 advises patience, inner alignment, and the recognition that change must be rooted in truth to be lasting. Revolutions that arise from desperation or unchecked emotions often lead to further instability, whereas those revolutions that are built on deep integrity create lasting impact. So, listening into the revolution. That's the title of this episode. It's these just like flow into one another so clearly. It's like you discover by listening that there is a pattern recognition and a pulse that's happening between the interconnected beings of the greater collective consciousness, and you form a clarity based on that. And then and only then are you aware enough to see what's no longer working at a systemic level. So all this Aquarius stuff is very structural. It's very, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and we always think of this rigid structure with Capricorn. But Aquarius has another type of structure, and it's that structure of webs. It's the structure of aquifers. It's the structure of highway systems, right? It's how things connect to each other. So that is a type of structural integrity that like takes a little bit more patience to maybe understand. 49, hexagram 49, I'll read a quote from the Divination Foundation's I Ching website that says, the elements of this hexagram are fire under water. Fire evaporates water, and water puts out fire. Similarly, change often causes conflict, and conflict brings about change. This hexagram refers to a time in the cycle of human affairs when things are stirring up and the hint of dramatic change is in the air. I mean, and you can think of that literally right now with the world of human affairs, but also I would argue it's, as I do argue in this podcast, that it's natural, like ecological affairs as well. It's this first sprouts popping up, the seeds underground kind of stirring, noticing that there's a little bit more warmth and readiness for something new to grow. So it continues, in order to succeed, a revolution must be in alignment with the laws of nature and good timing. It must begin at the right moment, gather support from a broad base of people, be guided by sincere and capable leaders, and, most important of all, address a real need. The strength of the forces of change will always be in proportion to the urgency of the need being championed. This is true whether the revolution is in government, business, education, or your own personal affairs. Revolutionary change ushers in a period when chaos arises from order. Let's remember that not all order is good and not all chaos is bad. Chaos is often an integral part of the way things evolve, as any parent and evolutionary science will confirm. Yes, yes. This hexagram reminds us to have the courage to radically change and renew the way we bring ourselves to life, like that snake shedding skin. In this way, you can channel chaos to your cause and unleash a new power on behalf of the good. If engaging in a negotiation, change the rules. If composing a piece of music, add the unexpected. If courting a lover, dare to be unconventional. Combat between forces of dark and light are cyclical. As such, one can become aware of these cycles and master them through preparation. In periods of drought, even wild storms are preferable to just another sunny day. A new season awaits. So yeah, if you think of that like drought, I've lived in drought country for a long time, and a huge deluge of rain can cause flooding. It's not actually desired, but ultimately the water is needed and can shake things up enough to get the resources that are needed. So if you have Gate 49 defined, or if you're wanting to know how to tap into the energy of this weekend and early next week, again, it's Saturday through next Wednesday when this sun is through this gate, you might feel an inner calling to challenge the status quo and initiate change. It's an emotionally based gate, like I said earlier, so clarity on that is essential. It's important to avoid acting from the heat of the moment and instead wait for emotional stability before making transformative decisions. This gate calls for alignment with core principles. What do you stand for, and what values are worth protecting? The power of this gate is knowing when a system or a relationship has reached the point where transformation is necessary. And when you're guided by emotional clarity and deep integrity, you can lead revolutions that uplift humanity and pave the way for profound rebirth. So this is not me saying go out and start any rebellion that you don't feel clear on. I think that there's a lot of time, it is a perfect time for the gate of rebellion to be showing up, or gate of revolution to be showing up. And it's really, I think this weekend, tapping into what that means for you and what that inner clarity of like what is needed, and focusing on how you as an eye are connected to the other eyes out there. And so what would be the most impactful type of movement that you can have. And maybe that's just starting the first process of shedding your own skin of something that's no longer working for you in your personal life, to allow you to get closer to that collective experience. Finally, I'm about done here. This was a bit of a long one, so thanks for staying with me. But I just wanted to link back in the astrological transits of the week. Neptune and the North Node are meeting up in Pisces, and Jupiter is going direct in Gemini. And I think that they just feel both very related to the gate of the listener and the gate of revolution and this just Aquarian energy. So just wanted to kind of mention that. Basically, I think that they all have a connection to transformation and to collective consciousness, and also to the dissolution of old structures in order to make way for higher wisdom. So Gate 13, the listener, absorbs and holds the collective stories of humanity and acts as a vessel for truth and fellowship and unity. Then Gate 49, the revolutionary, initiates profound change by challenging outdated emotional, social, and systemic paradigms, and ensures that transformation is aligning with evolving values and principles. So the North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces similarly is calling for a dissolution of ego-driven attachments and guiding us towards more of a spiritual surrender and compassion, that neutral compassion and alignment with our visionary ideals. All of these energies hold a certain sensitivity to the undercurrents of human experience. Gate 13, the listener does it through hearing and witnessing, having that ear to the ground. Gate 49 does it through understanding the right timing to catalyze change and be responsive rather than reactive. And the North Node Neptune alignment comes through transcending illusions and embracing the flow, like the oceanic flow of Pisces. Each of these represents a path of surrendering to a higher wisdom, whether it's through listening or through revolutionary actions or through a spiritual awakening. And they all three require a certain discernment in navigating our emotions and the truth in service of the greater whole. When it comes to Jupiter stationing direct in Gemini, that's happening this week, it also is bringing an expansive curiosity to the week when all of these kind of profound undercurrents are coming through. Jupiter in Gemini has this expansive hunger for knowledge and a desire to connect seemingly disparate ideas. That's very Gemini. So that weaves naturally into the themes of the listener, Gate 49, revolutionary, and North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Again, Gate 13, the listener is gathering and processing stories of the collective, and Gate 49 is catalyzing that revolution by becoming emotionally clear about the undercurrent between those stories, the things that link it together. And then Neptune in Pisces dissolves the boundaries in order to access the more spiritual truth. And so Jupiter in Gemini with all of that is acting as kind of a bridge, synthesizing these energies through the Gemini qualities of communication and learning and just being adaptable to different situations. So what a way to start the new lunar new year, huh? We got, some really good Aquarian energy coming through in these specific ways. And, now that we're a couple weeks away from the inauguration and its aftermath here in the US, I'm feeling a distinct energetic shift in my body away from victimization, paralysis, and apathy. And kind of I feel myself and others that I'm in contact with also just speaking towards and moving towards the type of revolution that requires true fellowship, requires listening and empathy, requires not taking things super personally, and more so looking for the connections between things. And also sticking the course with our own unique and wonderful visionary ideals. And so the energy of this week, the listener revolution, Neptune and North Node in Pisces, Jupiter in Gemini, all of these things really feel like just what we need for getting away from that victimization, that place, and finding how we can shed our skins to create room for a better reality. Next week, we have a full moon in Leo on Wednesday as the sun continues her transit through the gate of revolution. And then on Thursday, we'll enter the gate of feelings or passion just in time for Valentine's Day. So I'm excited to have a special guest on the show next week, who the deeply attuned and brilliant Rose Blakelock. And she's an amazing astrologer who I love her work. And so I'm excited to have her on the show and talk about her birthday season. She's an Aquarius, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And just sending you all my best as we make our way through these cosmic and earthly and human cycles. I'm sending you love and rest and compassion, and have a beautiful, beautiful week ahead. As always, follow me on Instagram or Blue Sky at astro.somatics. Subscribe for free at astrosomatics.substack.com. And if you'd like to kind of pre-sign up for or have any questions about the paid subscription of this offering, you can jump on that as well. So Don't forget to click the subscribe button on your podcast player and, or give a review. All of these things are super helpful as we get the word out. So thank you. And I will see you next week for that full moon in Leo and a beautiful conversation with a fellow astrologer. See you later. Bye.